So Nashwa has a remarkable story to share with us. It's a story about wrestling to escape her past and is on the road to what promises to be an extraordinary road of success. And she's going to work her way up to the stage, I think, but she's not going to break the camera's line. And I'm just going to take a moment to build on something that Sophia McGee said, my co-partner in the Middle East, and the conflict in the Middle East between a clash of civilizations and a meeting of minds, and clearly our prejudicial preferences for the latter. And one of the things that we've done in this Middle Eastern curriculum in CERRU is we've actually begun to bring, for the last 4 or 5 years, the Middle East in a positive, coherent learning atmosphere to this campus. Whether it's an Israeli general or a Palestinian general, whether it's a Palestinian parliamentarian or an Israeli Knesset member, whether it's an Israeli scholar, Jewish scholar, grassroots activists, they come to this campus, they serve as educators, and students learn from them. And then the students, after they learn from them, have to play the role of the other, the side, as Sophia said, whose pains and claims they least understand and identify with. And we've been looking for a capstone, the culminating part of the curriculum, besides doing simulations where students walk in each other's shoes and learn from people before they do that from the Middle East. The last aspect of authenticity, of smelling what the land smells like, of walking on the terrain. And so we've been successful, again, with the support of President Meiskens, in hooking up with a foundation that now brings students, 1/3 Jewish Americans, 1/3 Christian Americans, 1/3 Muslim Americans, to the Middle East. And I have been lucky enough to be chosen to run that program. And we have now guaranteed, because of commitment from the college, Queens College students will go on those programs and be integrated into them. We had 120 students that applied that all were competent at a reading and speaking level in either Arabic or Hebrew, and more than half were competent in both. They had to have a very high GPA. It was remarkably competitive. We had 2 Queens College students, an Orthodox young woman and a Muslim Puerto Rican, if I got this right. And Nashwa is going to come up here, and I'm going to give her all the other time I'd love to speak because her life is much more interesting.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of people here, so and please bear with me, I have a cold, my voice is usually not this deep, so alright. I would like to thank you all for being here today. I would also like to thank CERRU for nominating me for such a prestigious award. And finally, I would like to thank those in my life who have been by my side through thick and thin, those who have been a part of my journey, and those who believed in me. Allow me to jump right into introducing myself to you and telling you a little bit about my story that brought me to you here today. My name is Nashwa Laila El-Sayed. I was born here in Queens in 1990. I come from a broken home like many others. Mother and father separated early. But there's a twist. In 1993, on Father's Day, my father decided to kidnap me and take me to Egypt. I lived under his mercy for 17 years, a life that was full of physical, emotional, and psychological abuse. During my years with him, I asked about my mother, and because he grew tired of how often I asked about her, he told me that she was dead. I lived with the idea that I was an orphan for 6 years of my life, until at the age of 9, my mother showed up at my door one day. From that moment, my mother came to visit me each year, and she spoke to me on the phone weekly when she was away. I did not develop a deep relationship with her, but she told me something that changed my life forever. She told me that I was American, that I come from a place where parents can be prosecuted for abusing their children. a place where I don't have to be judged because of my sex, a place where I don't have to be forced into marriage at a young age, a place where I can study what I want, be whom I want, a place that is safe, a place that I can call home. I became obsessed with this idea of being an American. I even became more obsessed with the idea of reaching this place someday. And the first steps towards reaching this goal was to learn the language. And since there was no way for me to learn English in school, I decided to teach myself. So I started listening to the Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears. I started watching shows like Friends, Charmed, and Clueless. And I guess we owe it to the 90s pop culture and media that I'm able to speak to you today. There's something good from this era, guys. At the age of 17, I decided that I wanted to be a woman in politics. I believed that I was symbolically the missing link in foreign policy. I believe that I can bring forward the solution to the Middle East crisis. I approached my father with this idea, and his response was that he laughed at me. He said, "Politics is a world for men. What is a girl like you to do in it? I have a better plan for you. I have found you a husband, and your wedding is going to be the summer of your graduation." I turned to him and said, "But Dad, I'm only 17. He replied, "Exactly." I called my mother right away and I told her that it was time to leave, that it was time to come home. She put me in contact with the State Department and the FBI, who happened to have my abduction case open. And I met with the FBI agent, and at the end of my meeting, he asked me, "Why should I help you?" I replied, "Because I deserve a better life." On August 13th, 2008, at 5 o'clock in the morning, I escaped my house. I ran down 7 flights of stairs. I ran all the way to the highway, a half-a-mile distance, where I thought that I was gonna drop dead and have a heart attack because of how loud and how strong my heart was beating. But the louder my heartbeats became, the louder I heard, "Keep going. It's now or never." I found a van waiting for me with the FBI agents, and they stuck me into the car. And they drove me to Cairo Airport, the busiest place on planet Earth. I walked through the airport, and everywhere I went, people parted, and I was allowed to walk in easily. I had a State Department agent by my side, a Jewish man, the first Jewish man I've ever met. He turned to me and said, "Do you know the story about Moses parting the sea?" And I said, "Yes, it's mentioned in the Quran." He said, "This is exactly what this is. You just parted the sea. This is a miracle." He put me on a plane with 2 FBI agents, and we parted from Cairo to Austria, from Austria to Paris, and from Paris to New York City. I came home to my mom. I came home to the place where I was born. And this is where my story is supposed to end. This is where my happy beginning is supposed to start, right? No, wrong answer. I came home to my mother to find a damaged woman. A woman who is still till this day waiting for her 3-year-old to walk through the door. A woman who rejects the idea that her daughter is now a young woman. Despite looking exactly like my mother, I have an accent, and I come from a different culture, I believe in different values, and I pray to a different God, and to her that is a problem. I asked her for help to go to college. I asked her for help to help me find a job, but she refused. And after a year of waiting on her and getting nowhere, I decided to take matters into my own hand. So I took my transcripts and I went to Queens College, and luckily it was the direct admissions period, and they saw that I almost had perfect grades and they let me in. So I asked my mother for help to pay for school, but she again refused. I couldn't get any financial aid because she made a lot of money, and I couldn't get any scholarships because I didn't go to a U.S. high school. So I had to get 3 jobs, go to school full-time. And during my years in school, I joined the fencing team here. We do have a fencing team, guys. I reached NCAA regionals twice. And I majored in political science, and that's where my journey began. Last summer, my mother decided to kick me out of the house. I got in a fight with her boyfriend, and she chose him over me. And with $600 as my entire saving and a best friend by my side, I found a small room in an apartment here in Flushing, New York. That fall, I took Professor Rosenblum's class on the Middle East, focusing on the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, a passion of mine. And from the second I met this man, I knew that my life will change forever. He pushed me towards academic achievement until I reached the dean's list. And today, 2 weeks shy of graduation, I can tell you that I am one of the lucky 7 students from this nation to have been accepted to a leadership program that will allow me to travel the Middle East and start my career as a woman in politics. Till this day, I have yet to get a hug from my mother. But on the bright side, I have been surrounded by a community of friends, staff, and faculty here in Queens College, where I fit and where I am accepted as an Egyptian, Puerto Rican, Latina young woman. A perfect fit for a diverse world here in Queens College and in the world beyond. There's something that I would like to share with you folks tonight, and that is child abduction is not just an incident here or there. It is a phenomenon. There are 200,000 children being abducted around the world each year. And the only reason why we don't hear about it is because very few of them get rescued. I am one of the few. I am one of the lucky few who made it back sane. Therefore, I will dedicate my life to establishing a nonprofit organization that is aimed at rescuing abducted children. My goal in life is to bring back more people like myself and to bring back successful stories like mine to share with you and with the world. Thank you.
Sophia did make a comment that she wasn't sure exactly where Nashwa was going, but she's going to bookends in the Middle East. 6 days in Saudi Arabia, 7 days in Israel, a day in the Palestinian territories, and 5 days in Oman. So the bookends of this tour will be Saudi Arabia and Israel, which is not a bad symbolic set of bookends.
I'd like to take a moment to introduce my other half. Come over here. This is my friend Alex. She is also Egyptian Puerto Rican. I think we are the only two alive.